In 2015, Berlina Wallace threw sulfuric acid over her boyfriend, Mark Van Dungen, in a fit of jealousy and rage, after he began a relationship with another woman. Berlina Wallace threw the acid over Mark as he lay in her bed sleeping, while laughing, "If I can't have you, nobody can."
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos, the TikTok videos, IG videos, Facebook, anything weird, unusual, unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank all the seekers, man. Just watching the videos entirely, commenting down below. Really appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Stay with me, y'all. Let's seek the truth.
This is the creepy story about the daughter. There was a mother who had a 5-year-old daughter named Kate. The little girl had a constant habit of asking her mom if she was pretty. The mother always replied, "Of course you're pretty," even though she was tired of answering the same question. One day the mother took her daughter down for a walk by the river. Kate then stared into the water and asked her mom if she was pretty. The mother was so annoyed with answering the same question, she lost her temper and in a blind rage, she pushed her own daughter into the river. The little girl was unable to swim, and within moments she sunk to the bottom and died. When the mother realized what she did, she was overcome with regret. However, she did not want to go to jail and told the police that Kate slipped and fell into the water. A few years later, she got pregnant and gave birth to another child. She named her Kate to honor her dead daughter. One day, the mother found the little girl staring at herself in the mirror. "Mommy, do you think I'm pretty?" said Kate. "Of course you're pretty," replied the mother. The little girl then looked up at her mother and said, "If you thought I was so pretty, then why did you push me into the river?"
Wow, creepy.
What killer kids look like today. Eric Smith was sentenced to life in prison at age 13. This was for murdering 4-year-old Derek Robbie. Eric saw Derek walking alone in the park. He then took Robbie to some nearby woods and dropped a large rock on the 4-year-old's head, ending his life. Over the years, Eric Smith has been interviewed many times, most recently in 2021. When Alyssa Bustamante was only 15, she was sentenced to 30 years in prison. This was for ending the life of her neighbor, 9-year-old Elizabeth Alton. Alyssa used a knife to end Elizabeth's life. Alyssa then wrote in her diary, "I just killed someone." This is what Alyssa looks like today. She'll be eligible for parole in 2024, meaning that she may soon be released.
She's 2025 now, so she out.
This is why you should always lock your front doors. A kid living with both of his parents decided to watch a movie for their family weekly movie night. He then gets up to use the restroom. As he's in the restroom, he sees all of the power in the house cuts off, and then he hears 2 loud thumps. He locks the bathroom door and hears heavy objects being dragged across the hallway. The kid, freaking out, runs out of the bathroom and runs into the restroom. Once he is inside the room, he locks the door. As he locks the door, he jumps in bed and acts like he's asleep in hopes that this person who is in the house will ignore a child sleeping. He closes his eyes and hears the door creak at the same time. He squints his eyes and sees a man with no eyes dragging the bodies of both of his parents. The man dragging his parents sits his mom's dead body in a chair facing him, and then sets the dad's body on the floor facing up. It was almost like whoever was in the house who killed them wanted him to see it. He then sees the man writing something on the wall and then climbs under his bed. He laid there for hours knowing that if he moved a muscle, he would end up just like his parents. He finally built up enough courage to read the wall, and the writing on the wall said, "I know you're awake."
This is one of the most dangerous and evil killers in modern history. His name is Israel Keys. He basically just went random places and killed random girls. But we're only going to be talking about the last one, the one that got him caught for this video. Now this dude is messed up. So he caught and kidnapped his last victim as she was closing the coffee shop in Anchorage, Alaska. It's so sad because her dad was literally about to pick her up as she got kidnapped. He stole her debit card and everything she had on her. Then he killed her and hid her in his shed. But it gets even more messed up. This dude is so evil and so greedy, he decides to pose her dead body like she's alive and send the picture to the parents to ask for a ransom. So they put the ransom in her account, so he goes and takes her debit card to Las Vegas and goes to withdraw the money. He withdrew the money in Las Vegas with a disguise on. But luckily the ATM camera caught the rental car he was in, and that led to him getting caught, thankfully.
In 2015, Berlina Wallace threw sulfuric acid over her boyfriend, Mark Van Dungen, in a fit of jealousy and rage, after he began a relationship with another woman. Berlina Wallace threw the acid over Mark as he lay in her bed sleeping, while laughing, "If I can't have you, nobody can." Burns covered more than 25% of Mark's body, and much of the damaged skin had to be surgically removed. His face was massively scarred. He lost the sight in his left eye and most in his right eye. Mark spent more than a year in a hospital in Bristol after the attack before family and friends hired a private ambulance to take him to Belgium. Berlina Wallace was found guilty by a jury at Bristol Crown Court of felling a corrosive substance with intent but was cleared of murder. Berlina was ordered to serve 12 years in prison before she could be considered for parole. This is by far one of the most disturbing things I've ever heard a girlfriend do to her boyfriend.
The final words of killers. Jimmy Glass was a convicted murderer put to death by the state of Louisiana. In December of 1982, he took part in a grisly Christmas Day murder. Jimmy Glass was already serving time in jail for a lesser crime when him and fellow inmate Jimmy Wingo escaped. On the run and desperate for money, they found the home of Newton and Earlene Brown. They threw a cinder block through the sliding glass door, rushed in the house, down the hallway, and killed them before they could even react. On June 12, 1987, he was strapped into the electric chair, with his final words being, "I'd rather be fishing."
What would you guess is the most common job that serial killers have?
I don't know.
Former FBI assistant director argues that it's long-haul trucking. He just wrote a book that basically claims serial killers are attracted to the job of long-haul trucking because it's conducive to committing a lot of crimes and not being detected by police. And the author brings up cases like that of Robert Ben Rhodes, who was a trucker that took the lives of 50 suspected victims. He built a chamber in the back of his truck to keep his victims, and he was able to evade police detection because he was just constantly on the move. But the author argues that there's 850 unsolved murders along freeways in America that were most likely committed by truckers that were serial killers. He says that serial killers are maybe attracted to the job of long-haul trucking because it presents them an opportunity to commit crimes, even murders, largely undetected, exploit the scenes in jurisdictions, like grab a victim in one jurisdiction and kill them in a second, and dump their body in a third. It's an interesting theory for sure, but I will say that today there's actually a problem where truckers are over-surveilled to the point where bosses can kind of constantly spy on the truckers as they do their jobs. So before you sign up to be a trucker because you think it'll allow you to commit crimes without any repercussions, just know that today that's not really the case.
Think twice. I didn't even think about that. But the more you're saying about the long truck job is, you start knowing the patterns.
Serial killers you've never heard of, part 22. This is Pedro Rodrigues Filho, also known as Killer Petey. The Brazilian serial killer who was sentenced to 126 years took a bite of his own father's heart and was released in 2018 and now has a YouTube channel. Let's get into it. Pedro was born in Minas Gerais, Brazil in 1954, born with a deformed skull. His deformed skull was the result of his father abusing his mother while pregnant, as well as during most of his childhood. His first brush with death came at the age of 13 when he had a fight with his older cousin. He had pushed him into a sugarcane press, almost killing him. He said, "I pushed him, thinking his whole body would go through, but only his arm did." His first real killing came only a year later at the age of 14 when he shot the vice mayor. Pedro's father was fired from his job under false accusations of stealing, so he took matters into his own hands. His second murder wasn't far behind when he tracked down the actual thief and killed him. After that, he relocated to a new city in Brazil, where he committed a few robberies, killed a drug dealer, and fell in love with a woman named Maria Olympia. The two lived together until Maria was killed by gang members, and that fueled his next crime spree. He hunted down and murdered several gang members trying to avenge the death of Maria. He was like a real-life Punisher. He never killed anybody who he didn't believe did something wrong. He never harmed children, women, or good fathers. On May 24th, 1973, he was arrested at the age of 19. Yeah, everything I talked about all happened before he was even 20 years old. During his transport to prison, he was placed in the back of a police car with two other criminals, one of which was a rapist who he killed before they even reached the prison. His next murder was pure vengeance, going after his father, who was serving jail time for murdering his mother with a machete. He stabbed him 22 times, but that's not the worst part. It is then said that he cut his father's heart out and took a bite of it. You break my heart, I eat yours. While serving his 126 years in prison is when he really took justice into his own hands. Between 1973 and 2007, before his first release, he killed 47 other inmates, including his father. Now, his crimes within prison brought his sentence up to 400 years, but Brazilian law at the time says 30 years max. In 2007, the courts decided he was rehabilitated and he was released until 2011. His final conviction was in 2018 for participation in a prison riot, but it was a short stay and he was released the same year. He now has an active YouTube channel with over 250,000 subs. He is believed to have over 100 victims, and during a podcast he was asked, would he kill again? He said no, he would only kill again if someone came to take his life or the lives of his loved ones.
Just been told that your teenage son has died, but he's also killed 4 other people. How the hell do you process that information? Jordan McInness was an 18-year-old boy from the Gold Coast in Australia, and honestly, he had the perfect life. He was good looking, he was intelligent, he had loads of friends, had a loving family, he'd actually just started at the Griffith University, and was super sporty and sociable. It was December 2012 that everything would change. Jordan and his mum, Melissa, headed out on a shopping trip together, and she tried on a cute black dress and asked Jordan what his opinion was. He said she looked really pretty, and neither of them had any idea she'd be wearing that very same dress to his funeral just a week later. On the 8th of December, Jordan went out with a bunch of his friends to a Christmas party in Brisbane, and that night he drove there, he parked his car, and he went in and he sat and he drank alcohol and he smoked M. Now, despite this being horrifically irresponsible, he then decided to drive himself home in the early hours of the morning. And it wasn't even like he was being careful, he actually drove way over the speed limit that night. And suddenly, terrifyingly, his car collided with a stationary vehicle. Now, I believe the car had been parked because it had broken down and it was a car full of people. This collision was horrific. The other car burst into flames like an absolute fireball. People inside were Natasha Maggs and Alan Sullivan, both 20, along with another couple, Cody Holland Williams, age 18, and his girlfriend Tiana. A 15-month-old baby was also inside of the vehicle, who was shockingly the only survivor. Both of the child's parents were killed in the horror blaze. The baby was taken to be looked after by extended family, thank God, but honestly this just does not bear thinking about. And obviously Jordan's family, when they were told that he had passed away, and then they were told that he'd also killed 4 other people because of his actions, they just had so many mixed emotions, understandably. They were like, how the hell do we arrange a funeral and talk about all of the good things about Jordan when he has just caused all of these people to die? Now, I feel so sorry for Jordan's mum, just having to deal with that conflict of emotions. It just must be absolutely horrifying. She actually said in interviews that she felt like she failed as a mum, which obviously definitely wasn't her fault at all. And his parents now advocate for more education around young people and reckless driving.
Serial killers you've never heard of, part 5. This is Craig, the Iron Man Price, also known as the Warwick Slasher. Between 1987 and 1989, he committed 4 murders. At the young age of 13, he committed his first murder, stabbing a nearby neighbor 58 times. 2 years later, he brutally killed 3 more neighbors, which was a mother and her 2 young daughters, stabbing the mother 57 times, her 10-year-old daughter 63 times, and brutally crushing the skull of her 8-year-old daughter. The stabbings were so brutal that the handles of the knives actually broke off. In September 1989, he confessed to all his crimes. Showing no remorse, he actually mocked the victim's dying sounds. He was sent to a juvenile correctional facility. From that point on, he racked up many more charges. He was actually set to be released April 2020, but stabbed an inmate.
How to survive in the Middle Ages? Find the closest church and explain that you're a traveler from a distant land. Demonstrate your ability to write, as this will establish your credibility as an educated person. After the church takes you in, use your rare writing skills to find work as a scribe. Move to a big city like Florence, and your scribing business will flourish, providing you a comfortable living.
He ended his life for not letting him get Avril Lavigne tickets. 39-year-old Robert Lyons lived with his mom in Carroll Stream, Illinois. He was described as a troubled individual who struggled with mental health issues for many years. Robert also had a history of erratic behavior and had been in and out of treatment facilities. His relationship with his mother was strained, but his mother, Linda, was a caring and loving parent trying her best to help Robert manage his issues. On March 14th of 2008, Robert told his mom to call one of her friends to get him tickets in a skybox to see Avril Lavigne in concert. Linda told him no, and when he heard her say no, he became enraged. This started an argument between the two, and in a fit of rage, Robert grabbed a champagne bottle and struck his mom twice in the head. But this wasn't enough for him. He then stabbed his mom 9 times in the back. Robert used so much force that one knife blade broke off inside of her and the other one bent. After attacking his mom, he poured harsh household chemicals like Drano, Tile X all over her body. Robert then changed his clothes, left his mom's lifeless body on the floor, and left to go shopping. Neighbors and friends were concerned once they hadn't heard from Linda, so they called police so that they could go and check on her. Once police arrived and went inside of her home, they found Linda's lifeless body on the bathroom floor. Police immediately focused on Robert since he lived with his mom and he was nowhere to be found. Just hours later, Robert was arrested at a Hooters restaurant, calmly enjoying his food. In September of 2011, trial finally began for Robert, and the jury deliberated for less than 2 hours, and he was convicted of first-degree murder. January of 2012, when Robert was in court, he confessed to everything and stated that he wasn't taking his medication, and during the time he was suffering from a manic episode. Ultimately, Robert was sentenced to 40 years in prison.
It's a crazy case series, man.
Another cold case has finally been solved as the final Brook victim has been identified. And this is crazy because I literally just covered this case on my podcast and on here last week. In 1985, a 55-gallon drum was found in Brook State Park near Manchester, New Hampshire. Inside the barrel were 2 bodies, a woman and a child. 15 years later, another barrel was found nearby with 2 children inside. These victims were all the victims of a homicide, but for years they remained unidentified and their case went cold. In 2018, 3 of the victims were identified thanks to an internet sleuth and genetic genealogy. They were identified as a woman, Marlise Honeychurch, and her 2 children, Marie Vaughn and Sarah McWaters. But the 4th victim, this girl, was unrelated and she remained unidentified. She has only been known as the middle child ever since. In 2019, it was announced that serial killer Terry Peter Rasmussen, who died in prison in 2010 serving a sentence for the murder of another woman, was the biological father of that middle child. And he was named the prime suspect in the case, but since he was no longer alive at that point, he has never been charged in connection with the murder. Unfortunately, the girl's identity remained unknown, as did who her mother was, until now. Police just announced that the middle child has been identified as Rhea Rasmussen, born in 1976 in Orange County, California. Genetic genealogy also helped identify her mother as Pepper Reed, a woman who was born in 1952 in Texas and has not been seen since the late 1970s. It is believed that Pepper may be another victim of Rasmussen's, and her case remains active and ongoing. Now she has been identified, and Rhea has her name back. In a statement, New Hampshire Attorney General John Vermella said, quote, "This case has weighed on New Hampshire and the nation for decades. With Rhea Rasmussen's identification, all 4 victims now have their names back." He also said, "We continue to seek answers about the disappearance of Pepper Reed." And Rasmussen's daughter, who he had with another woman before he committed any of the murders he committed, has said that this will not be over for her until Pepper's case is closed. But this is huge, and I'm so glad that she finally has her name back. Rest in peace, Rhea.
This woman went to the wrong house. Instead of trying to help her, this guy shot at her 17 times. According to the woman, too, this guy grabbed her arm and her wrist and tried to restrain her, like, from moving any way possible. The dude's explanation was also super weird. The guy thought the lady was a sex worker and feared for his wife's safety, so he shot at her. Mind you, on the video camera, this lady was approaching the house confused because she was literally lost looking for her friend's address. If somebody that looks confused is scary to you, you probably shouldn't have a gun, to be honest with you. He was out on bail on Wednesday, and the judge said he cannot have any firearms anymore. Honestly, that's a good thing. This guy should definitely not have any firearms at all. On top of that, he should not be in contact with the 2 individuals who he shot at. After he shot at the woman, she got in her car and drove off, with her friends in it and everything. They were just looking for the address. He is getting hit with the attempted murder charge, so I'm sure possibly this guy might go to jail for like 10, 15 years. Hell, maybe even life if it's bad enough. This happened in Palm Bay, Florida. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
A person come up to your house confused and you take them as a threat. I don't know what to tell you, man. You need help.
Serial killer you haven't heard of that has more victims than Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, and Jeffrey Dahmer combined. The Sunday morning slasher. Carl Eugene Watts targeted mostly young, attractive women walking alone in the dark. He would stab, slash, strangle, and drown them. Watts told a psychiatrist that they had evil eyes, and it wasn't enough to murder these women, he had to kill their spirits too, by burning personal items or tossing them in a sewer. His first victim was 19-year-old Gloria Steele, a mother and college student who was stabbed 33 times in her apartment. Michigan authorities knew he was responsible for dozens of murders, but they never had enough evidence to convict him. In 1982, Watts fled to Texas and resumed his murders, killing at least 12 more, including the youngest victim, 14-year-old Emily Lacroix. Now let's get to the moment he was finally caught. On May 23, 1982, Carl Watts choked Lori Lister until she was unconscious and dragged her up the apartment steps. He used her keys to open the door and came face to face with Lori's roommate, Melinda Aguilar. Melinda was choked by Carl Watts as well, but this time she pretended to black out. He bound her hands behind her back and put her in a separate bedroom, while he filled up a bathtub where he planned to drown Lori Lister. With her hands still bound behind her back, Melinda quietly locked the bedroom door and proceeded to jump off a second-story balcony, where she yelled at a woman who was drinking coffee outside to call police. Unfortunately, Texas prosecutors offered immunity to Watts for the 13 murders he confessed to, in exchange for a 60-year sentence. Oddly enough, he was almost released from prison in 2006, but Michigan authorities were able to convict him of 2 murders before that could happen.
Bleed blue.
The Blue Man. You're starting off hot already.
Normal looking photos with disturbing backstories, part 2. This Snapchat was the last photo ever taken of Sydney Loof, a woman who was killed by her Tinder date. Her body was cut into 14 different pieces, and when it was brought back to the morgue, it was in 6 different bags. This man was transferring oxygen tanks for 12 boys and their coach. He didn't have enough oxygen for himself, however, and died after losing consciousness in one of the cave's passageways. This man is Issei Sagawa, an actual cannibal from Japan. This photo was taken by a Japanese magazine after he was released from prison for insanity. The man in this photo, Franklin Floyd, married a woman and had custody over her children while she was in prison for 30 days. The girl in this photo is one of her children, whom Floyd kidnapped to start a new life with. He left the other siblings behind, and after this photo was taken, he went to another state, changed both of their names, and claimed her as his biological daughter. Later, he went on to marry her.
Do you think like a psychopath? Specialists have actually agreed that if you can answer this riddle easily, you might be a psychopath. An explorer and his crew were stranded in the Arctic for several months. When they were finally rescued, the explorer was reunited with his wife, to which he told her all the stories about how their ship crashed and the captain had to feed the remaining crew penguins while they huddled on the ice together in order to survive. A few days later, the explorer's wife became curious and decided to try penguin for herself. Now, despite the explorer's experience, he agreed to eat some with her. However, immediately after, he began to cry and ran out of the room. Shortly later, he unalived himself. But why? Now send this to a friend. Let's see if you're friends with a psychopath.
Kids, songs with the dark backstories, part 1. Firstly, we've all heard the child song, Ring Around the Rosie, right? Well, there's a popular theory that it was actually based on the bubonic plague. Supposedly, the rosy part of the song refers to the red visible rash people would get with the bubonic plague, and the pocket full of posies refers to people putting flowers in their pocket because they thought it would stop them from getting sick. And where it refers to ashes, ashes, we all fall down, this refers to people who unfortunately passed away. But remember, this is just a theory. Next, I'm sure we've all also heard the kid song, Do Your Ears Hang Low? Well, the first record of this song comes from World War I, and instead of saying ears, they actually said nuts.
Hey man, we know, like I said, watching these clips together, man, how these songs and shows, they be based off some dark things, so you can't put it past you, man. Our classic kid songs are based on the bubonic plague. You're gonna have to look into that one.
Fun facts about the human body, PT.2. If someone is sleeping and you blow on their eyes won't react. But if they're awake, they will flutter a bit. That's how you check if someone is really sleeping. If you drink nothing but purple Powerade for 3 days straight, your poop will turn neon green. Your sense of balance is strongly linked to your eyes, and you may notice it's harder to keep your balance with them closed even if you're standing still. Women are actually programmed to forget the pain of childbirth after a few months or so. If this didn't happen, most women would only end up having one child, which would eventually lower the population.
That makes sense, especially that last fact.
This is the disturbing truth about the Teletubbies. The Teletubbies is a dark nightmare about genetically engineered slave creatures being systematically trained to become part of our society. They are not in control of their own destiny. 3 things control their day-to-day lives. First is the voice, a tiny female voice that tells them when to eat, when to sleep, and when to say goodbye. The robotic voice comes from a speaker in the ground, hinting that something larger lies beneath. Second is Nunu, a harmless vacuum cleaner robot who wanders after the Teletubbies, cleaning up their messes that they made and yelling at them for bad decisions. Nunu is the watchdog of the Teletubbies. Next is the pinwheel. When the pinwheel spins, the Teletubbies stop whatever they are doing and run to the top of the hill to perform a ritual. The Teletubbies just follow rules and listen to other beings. Teletubbies is simply a warning about the darkness of the human spirit as it ages. The Teletubbies is about the end of the world.
So they're just some programs.
This is the scary theory about Bob Ross. Up first, we all know who Bob Ross is. He's a very famous painter who is known for his bright attitude and his very calm demeanor. But people think Bob Ross was a serial killer, and every single one of his paintings is where he buried the bodies. People are saying this because this painting by Bob Ross is called Happy Little Accidents. Nothing special, right? But this is where they found 5 female bodies that were half eaten and dead. The painting in this location are almost identical, and this might raise the question, was Bob Ross a serial killer?
What do you think, Seekers? Was he? Was
the
that
most
coincidence?
disturbing phone number in the world, part 2. In 2005, in a quiet luxury neighborhood in California, laid a family of 6. The road they lived on is called Devil's Ladder, and things are about to take a demonic turn. The father is laying down one night at 3:30 in the morning while everybody in the house is sleeping. He gets up, picks up his 9mm pistol, and slowly starts creeping down the hallways. One by one, he shoots each of his children in the head while they're sleeping. He then made his way down to his last 2 victims. The last 2 victims of this heinous crime were his own mother and his wife. After everyone else in the house was dead, he made his way downstairs, picked up the cell phone, and made one last phone call.
911, state your emergency. Sheriff's Department, how can I help you?
I was able to find the original phone number using Spy Dialer, and as you can see on your screen now, it says he's deceased and the number's disconnected. However, when you call this number today, this is what plays.
Okay, does anyone else hear footsteps? If so, whose footsteps are these?
Make sure to like and follow for more videos tomorrow.
He really went in depth with that one, man. I mean, you can hear the footsteps in the background. It's kind of weird that the number is still, like, you can call it to this day and hear that. It was just a tragic story, man.
A time traveler from 2671 has warned us. Now yes, a time traveler has posted on TikTok several dates which humanity need to look out for. And none of these events were good, so make sure to save this video so we can look back to see if he was right. The first comes on 8th of December 2022. A large meteor, but not extinction level, will hit Earth, bringing with it an alien species and unknown materials. That sounds like it's straight out of the plot of A Quiet Place. Just 12 days later, on the 30th of December, there will be a 9.8 magnitude earthquake which will open a hole in the Mariana Trench. This large earthquake will apparently release the largest species humanity has ever witnessed. And 2023 is not looking much better, because this is the year we apparently find massive species of already known animals, such as a 3-foot spider and an 18-foot bear. And said this to literally anyone you know, because apparently in 2023 we're getting 3-foot long spiders. If that does come true, Mars anyone? Yo, Elon!
That was all
Here's
cap.
the truth
It never
behind
happened.
Thomas the Train. In a 1984 episode of Thomas the Tank Engine, there was a big green train engine named Henry pulling a passenger train. He runs into a tunnel and stops at the end, not wanting to go any further. Henry's driver argued with him, but he refuses to get out. He claimed the rain would wreck his brand new green paint. So the workers decided to get revenge on him and built a big brick wall in front of him so he could never get out. They then abandoned him and his body is still there today.
What? Hey, justice for that
Why
man,
is
bro.
nobody talking about this photo? See, in Southeast Asia, there was a giant sinkhole that researchers noticed had its own ecosystem. I mean, inside it had its own body of water, its own clouds, rivers, lakes. It had a self-sustaining atmosphere. Don't mind these, I was just fixing my car. Let me get rid of them for you. Pretty good. So a team of explorers got funded to go and search the sinkhole. They were mainly looking for prehistoric plants so they can use for medicine and further research. But what they found was even crazier. They found never before seen animals that were out of this world. I'm talking crustaceans, reptiles, mammals, all throughout the voyage. Everything seemed to be going smooth until it didn't, because this is where it gets scary. The team had stopped reporting to the research lab. They were supposed to be sending back updates every couple of hours of what they found. They were only supposed to be down there for 7 days, but turned up missing for 2 weeks. That's double time of what they were funded for. When the rescue team was sent to go search and find them, they found clothes and tents that were ripped to shreds. Traces of blood were also found on the ground. When checking the camera equipment, they found all the new species that the explorers had taken pictures of. But the last image on one of the cameras was this photo. But before I continue, you and your third app see this creature in the woods. Your third app says, "Don't worry, I'll protect us." Let me know who it is, and let me know if you believe you're safe or doomed with them on your side. But from the picture, scientists concluded that it is bigger, stronger, and possibly faster than us. And their worry is that there might be more of these, and the sinkhole allowed them to escape and be released into the outside world.
We're going to have to check up on that sinkhole, man. They need to close that
An
thing
80
down.
million-year-old prehistoric shark was just discovered in Japan. Check out the video.
$80 million years old, and we just now seeing it. That's scary, bro. We didn't discover all of
Friendly reminder,
our
you would
ocean.
not survive a day in the wild. If you ever imagined how you'd survive a lion attack and thought you could hide in a tree, nope, they got that too. We got lion climbing trees, and the crazy thing is, they didn't always do this. Lions normally don't even rock with trees like that. It's not like they can't. They're cats. It comes with a contract. But it's the getting down part that they struggle with. They're not leopards, and bigger lions that fall can end up dislocating something. And these are lions. Going on injury reserve ain't an option. But the funny thing about lions, if they're not good at something, watch them find a way to be great. There's actually a population of tree climbing lions in Queen Elizabeth National Park in Uganda. Apparently, one lion figured they could chill in the trees to get away from insects and the heat, and now they got the whole pride doing it. They even teach the cubs to be part-time arboreal as soon as they're old enough. Well, actually not too old, because the mothers do use climbing to get away from them. Real. Somewhere a leopard's swearing appropriation. And like I said, this isn't normal. Seeing lions in a tree is like seeing lions on the beach. You never see it happen. Scientists think the lions figured out that they can use the trees and climbing to keep tabs on their prey without actually giving themselves away. Also, they look so cozy up there. I really think they just caught a vibe and climbed with it. But yeah, even a bigger male can get up there if it means they can steal a leopard's leftovers. Moral of this video, lions, find a way.
Here are 3 weird facts about your body that you didn't know. Number 1, on the palm of your hand, there's over 1,000 different types of bacteria living on it right now. Yikes. Number 2, all of us humans are 99% genetically the same. So technically we're all related. That one's kind of weird. Number 3, whenever you smile, it's actually scientifically impossible to not touch the tongue to the roof of your mouth. Oh, I'm just kidding, but you have a great smile. Let's go, I got you, I made you smile. Share this video with some friends and make them smile too.
I knew that last one was kind of cap. I'm like, what? Your tongue doesn't touch the touch of the root of your mouth. I knew that one was cap. The thing that got to me is just how everybody's like 99.9% the same. So he said if you think about it in the way we all related, man. Why can't we just have world peace then?
Something that we have not talked about yet is mermaids. Are they real? Is there any proof of them? Let me tell you. While digging deep on the internet, I found this following video that I'm about to show you. Now it's very busy and loud, so you need to focus to see what I'm trying to show you. As you can see, we could very, very clearly see a hand of a person that's attached at the knuckles, violently fighting to get out of the net that they were caught in. You don't just catch humans in the water. Now look at this hand. This is what scientists think the hands of mermaids look like. And I'm going to show you the hand from the video, and you can see that they're the same. Not to mention, there are a lot of pictures of dried up mermaid skeleton that are unexplained. Now what we technically think mermaids are beautiful women and men who swim around all day and sound magical and just safe, happy creatures. But that's not what people think it is. They're thought to look weird, alien-like. And when they make sounds, they screech. They don't sing. They're scaly all over, not just their tail. And they're just overall harsh, evil creatures. I personally believe they exist because 70% of the sea is undiscovered. So how do we think we know they don't? Tell me what you think.
It's a possibility, very strongly.
Adventurous travels has died in a freak snowstorm in the Swedish wilderness. Storm de Boel was found dead after getting caught in a devastating blizzard. The night before, he sent his grandmother a tragic final message. It's snowing heavily here, but don't worry, I'll survive, you know. His mother believed his tent must have blown away or been destroyed in the storm, leaving him without any shelter in the freezing temperatures. He was able to contact emergency services, but by the time they were able to search for him, it was tragically too late. He was just 22.
Do you know the craziest conspiracy theory about one of Hollywood's most beloved actors, Keanu Reeves, that he's immortal and has lived multiple lives? This conspiracy started when theorists noticed that one of the most prolific Holy Roman emperors of all time, Charlemagne, looks a lot like Keanu Reeves, from the eyes to the nose to the cheekbones. Even though Charlemagne was born in the year 748, the theory goes that he was powerful, rich, and of high enough status that he was asked to join the New World Order or the Illuminati, and given the opportunity to be immortal, so when he would die, he would reincarnate. So here he pops up again in the 1500s in this very famous painting, Portrait of a Man, with a man who has the exact same face as Keanu Reeves. Then in the 1800s, another very famous man, a poet by the name of James Russell Lowell, pops up looking exactly like Keanu Reeves. Then right on schedule in the 1900s, a very famous actor of the time, Paul Mounet, happens to look just like Keanu Reeves. Here's another photo. As we go, the photos get higher quality, and as Keanu is immortal and lives all these lives, he acquires more knowledge and wisdom about how to achieve success over and over again to become all these prolific men. And Keanu doesn't deny it, so before I tell you what he has to say about this, make sure you follow so you find out the craziest conspiracy theories about each of these celebrities and request who you want to see next.
You've just been around, there's just different generations.
We're all stardust, baby.
I can see it, we have a likeness in the eyes, and the nose, and the mustache, and the beard, and the cheekbones, and the forehead.
Look at that guy.
That's the real... Oh.
He didn't deny it.
This is a true horrifying story, part 29.
That's
is an
interesting.
Old famous story known as The Boy and the Jinn. This story took place in Nottingham, England in the early 90s. There is a massive abandoned building that has 120 rooms, many dorms, and very big halls. The building was bought to start an Islamic madrasa, meaning school for boys. They renovated the place and scheduled classes. When the school started, all the students were warned and restricted from accessing the west side of the building. No reasons given, just no one is allowed to go to the west side of the school. One of the students, let's give him a name. His name is Imran. Imran was 13 years old at the time, and he's from Bangladesh. He does not speak a word of English nor Arabic. The only language Imran spoke was Bengali. Imran was a quiet kid. He didn't have any friends. He always walked alone, sleeps alone, and eats alone. One day, Imran strays off to the west side of the building on his own, the side that he was restricted from accessing. He comes back after a while with a Quran in his hand. He goes to the Quran teacher and tells him, "Test me in Arabic." Remember, he does not speak a word in any other language but Bengali. The teacher laughs it off and starts to test him out. Verse after verse, he realizes that this student memorized the whole Quran efficiently, and everyone was extremely shocked about this. On that same night, all the students head to their dorms and go to sleep. During the middle of the night, they banged the principal's room, screaming, "There's a jinn, there's a jinn." The principal found out that while the students were asleep, the walls in their dorm would bang and scratch, and there will be voices coming out the walls saying the name Imran. Then it all added up. They figured out that Imran was possessed by a jinn that was a hafiz of the Quran. So an Islamic exorcism wouldn't really do much. The sheikh would put his hand on Imran and recite the ayat, but the jinn would come back with the following verse to break the exorcism. The ruqya cannot work on a jinn that memorized the Quran. And the jinn himself is challenging the raqi on who knows the Quran better. One of the imams that witnessed this whole situation asked to send Imran back home for 1 month, and that should treat his situation. They send him home. He comes back after 1 month, not knowing any Arabic, not knowing any English,
doesn't know anything about the Quran, the same old quiet kid. And no one ever dared going near the west side of the building after what happened to Ahmad.
So he was possessed by a jinn, sent home for a month, and it went away. We know him, man. He be telling the jinn stories. And there's validity to it. I guess he does all that research for it.
It's because of the most athletically disrespectful creatures on Earth. There's no situation where a cat needs to be doing any of that. You see, leopards had a problem. I'm sorry, Zevi, it's too catchy. They live in Africa, but they don't weaponize the power of friendship like lions or hyenas, or a clan of Cujos, or even baboon mafia. Being a solo dolo hunter, well, you see how that goes for cheetahs. They literally have anxiety, but leopards have something cheetahs don't. Two things, actually. They're the best climbers of any cat, and pound for pound, they're the strongest, and these are cats we're talking about. They're plenty OP already. Basically, you got Teen Titans Robin in the form of a weaponized panther. Huh, that is a rhino. Yeah, that is a giraffe. And being able to climb means they can dodge the same smoke that gets cheetahs cooked. So not only do leopards have the longest grocery list of a big cat with like 90-something animals, they have the widest range of any too. But they're also crafty enough to live right next to people. They will pull up to your front door in some places. And because leopards can and will murk anything, in some places they realize that pet dogs are easy calories. I can't show you this video, but by the grace of God and plot armor, the dog made it. Also, hot take, the most dangerous predator is a predator with predators. And since leopards get got by lions and tigers too, they're much more likely to be on site with people if they feel threatened. So yeah, leopards are a flex and my second favorite big cat. What's the first? The more you know.
Donald Trump is now saying that the only way out for TikTok is a 50-50 split with America. But we, as the people of TikTok, deserve a say on who is our next leader. So let me show you your options. First up, we got Elon. I mean, for starters, there's no arguing the man's intelligence. I mean, bro might already have a Neuralink, for all we know. In terms of experience, he has multiple highly successful businesses in all types of industries, including social media. But X, still a bit of work in progress. In terms of aura, I mean, if we're gonna rank this off of like someone like Obama's walk, then for Elon, it's a 0 for low taper fade, which could be the most important metric to own TikTok. He does have a political bias, which could influence company policy. And as for wealth, bro's almost half a trillionaire. That's crazy. Okay, fine. Plus 10 aura points for that. Next we ask, should we sell to Zuck? I mean, love him or hate him, he's a smart guy. And still to this day, unlike other companies the size of Meta, he retains 100% decision-making control for the company. He has over 3 billion people using his apps, so TikTok would likely be in safe hands, but that doesn't make up for the lack of aura. In fact, he's notoriously aura-free. -1. His low taper fade is down horrendous. His bias is whoever's in office at the time, and he's the 4th richest person in the entire world. So bro could easily make an offer that ByteDance would be happy with. Next, we have the first person to actually put in an offer to try and buy and save TikTok, Kevin O'Leary. He's founded and sold multiple companies, and he's a highly successful, old-school businessman, which might be what we need. His experience with social media, definitely lacking, but considering the type of businessman he is, he'll probably just put the right people in place to run it. Measuring aura is not a scientific endeavor. It's more, when you see it, you know it. And for Kevin here, I don't feel moved. I think he actually gets a good 10 points for his reverse low taper fade. In terms of bias, he's middle right, so that does seem to be more on economic matters rather than social issues. And as for wealth, actually surprisingly lower than you would expect. And then we got to talk about Mr. Beast. I mean, starting with, if there's anyone that we're going to call a social media genius, it will be him. As for experience, he is only 26 and he's never been in charge of an actual social media platform. But then on the other hand, he's got almost 500 million followers. If there's anyone that will know what users and creators want on TikTok, it'll be him. His aura, I mean, again, vibe-based thing, doesn't have the Obama walk. And while we still don't see a low taper fade, it's the best of our options, so 1 point. He doesn't seem to have any political bias. And while bro is definitely not like app buying rich like Zuck or Elon, he did say that he's gonna get help from other billionaires. That also makes us less confident that he can put in an offer that's gonna sweep ByteDance off their little feet. So there are your options. So who do you choose to be TikTok's next supreme leader?
If someone is trying to make you decide in a hurry, they are probably giving you a bad deal. Walk away. If someone has a panic attack, start breathing regularly and loudly. The person that is panicking will subconsciously start breathing in rhythm with you. When a group of people laugh, they tend to look at the person they like the most. Nervousness and excitement have the same body reaction, so if you're nervous for a speech, trick yourself into thinking you're actually excited. If you think someone is watching you, fake a yawn, then watch them. Get someone to contribute to an idea and they will more likely accept it. If you whisper to someone, it's more likely they will whisper back even if there's no good reason to lower your voice. If you want to make someone feel uncomfortable, look at their forehead while you're talking to them. If you want somebody to open up to you, ask them a question. If the person only partially answers it, remain silent and keep eye contact. This will pressure the person into talking more. If you want to be more persuasive, reduce the use of the words I think and I believe. Touching someone on their shoulder or on their knee creates a stronger emotional bond with that person. Chew gum if you are still nervous. Our brains assume that if we are eating, then we are not in any immediate danger, lowering our fight or flight response. When you approach a group of people, notice if they turn their feet towards you or away from you. If their feet point away from you, you are probably not welcome. Subtly nodding when people are talking to you indicates that you are genuinely interested in what they are having to say and they're going to like you more. If you take a moment to look at someone's eye color when meeting them, you'll be giving them the perfect amount of eye contact. If there is a mirror behind where you are ordering, you are less likely to be rude because nobody wants to see themselves actually be rude. If you buy the first pitcher at the bar with your friends, you'd be surprised how far you could go by saying, I bought the first one. If someone is making jokes at your expense, act like you can't hear them and ask them to repeat it multiple times. By the time they say it a third or fourth time, nobody's laughing. When someone remembers you, they are most likely going to remember the first memory and the last memory of you. So make sure you always leave a good last impression too. After you have learned how to do something new and have done it yourself, the fastest way to retain that information is to teach somebody else. If you have a song stuck in your head and you can't get it out, try and listen to the whole song all the way through while singing it. Your brain is treating the song like an unfinished task in your subconscious. Plan something for every Wednesday that you can look forward to. You'll start to look forward to it on Monday, and by the time Wednesday comes around, you're already halfway through the week and almost to the weekend. If you ask someone to do a small favor for you, their subconscious mind is going to register that they like you because they're doing a favor for you. Showing the palms of your hands while talking to someone subconsciously communicates that you have nothing to hide and that you can be trusted. Whenever you're introducing a new idea to someone and you lead with the words, this might not be for you, but, it intrigues their interest and makes it feel like it probably is for them. If you need to remember to do something tomorrow, put something in your room out of place. If you don't want to get out of bed, throw your pillow across the room. The next day, you will see this item out of place and it will jog your memory of what you need to accomplish. If you're procrastinating, just stop telling yourself how much work you have to do. This will overwhelm you. Instead, tell yourself you only have to work for 5-10 minutes, and then you're likely going to continue working past those minutes. People who are lying will normally blink more than normal, hide the palms of their hands, glance up to the right, mess with their hair, or use abnormally long sentences. If you're trying to get over a breakup, do not use fictional scenarios. Imagining your person with someone new is only going to make you more angry and sad about something that's not even real. If you want to create a deeper connection with someone you're interested in, ask them these two questions. What do you think we have in common? And what do you like most about me? If you are suffering from racing thoughts, use the 3-3-3 rule. Name 3 things you see, 3 things you hear, and 3 parts of your body. This will help center your mind and bring you back to the present. When someone apologizes for something that you don't feel like was that big of a deal to apologize for, they're probably telling you subconsciously what actually bothers them if it was done to them. If they apologize for interrupting you, they probably really just don't like being interrupted themselves. Follow for more psychology hacks.
Do this. This is 17-year-old Michael Dumas. He was on a church trip to Florida with some of his friends. While on this trip, they went to Pompano Beach, and he would be buried in the sand as you see here. He'd soon be unburied and all would be well until later that night when he would wake up in the middle of the night and be itching like crazy and sweating. At first, this would be labeled as an ear infection and he would be sent home with drops, but it would soon be obvious that that's not what it was, as he started to develop these raised, bumpy rashes. And he became pretty lethargic, just wanting to sleep all the time. It got even worse to the point where he was having these big, nasty blisters. And that's when he'd finally be diagnosed with cutaneous larva migrans, which is pretty much dog or cat hookworm. So pretty much these work by the dog or the cat pooping in the sand and contaminating it, and then not long after, these microscopic larvae hatch, and then you step in this contaminated sand and you end up looking like Michael. After all of this, he ended up developing a staph infection as well, and if it's not bad enough just him getting infected, 5 others from this trip got infected with hookworm as well.
Normal looking photos with disturbing backstories, part 2. This Snapchat was the last photo ever taken of Sydney Loof, a woman who was killed by her Tinder date. Her body was cut into 14 different pieces, and when it was brought back to the morgue, it was in 6 different bags. This man was transferring oxygen tanks for 12 boys and their coach. He didn't have enough oxygen for himself, however, and died after losing consciousness in one of the cave's passageways. This man is Issei Sagawa, an actual cannibal from Japan. This photo was taken by a Japanese magazine after he was released from prison for insanity. The man in this photo, Franklin Floyd, married a woman and had custody over her children while she was in prison for 30 days. The girl in this photo is one of her children, whom Floyd kidnapped to start a new life with. He left the other siblings behind, and after this photo was taken, he went to another state, changed both of their names, and claimed her as his biological daughter. Later, he went on to marry her.
World is a weird place. The former Abercrombie & Fitch CEO was just arrested on serious charges and will probably be in prison for the rest of his life. So this is 80-year-old Mike Jeffries, the A&F CEO from 1992 to 2014. You might recognize him because he's been in hot water before, when an interview resurfaced from 2006, where basically he said he wants cool, attractive people wearing A&F, and that fat, old, unattractive people can go somewhere else. In 2004, there was a class action lawsuit brought by minority employees who said that they were denied employment or forced to work in the back so customers didn't see them. A&F paid $40 million to settle that case. In 2005, there was some controversy surrounding shirts that read, quote, "Who needs a brain when you have these? Gentlemen prefer tickle bitties," and "Do I make you look fat?" So now let's get to the criminal allegations. Mike Jeffries, along with his partner and another man, were arrested yesterday. It is alleged that from 2008 to 2015, these men operated an international trafficking ring. Jeffries and others paid dozens of men to travel to various locations to hold these parties, basically equivalent to Diddy's freak-offs. And these young, vulnerable men were led to believe that this could lead to modeling opportunities and benefit their career. But when they arrived, all their personal items were taken, including cell phones, wallets, and clothing, and they were required to sign NDAs. Victims were injected with drugs, and even when they could not consent or did not consent, Jeffries and his partner would arbor them personally or use objects. The youngest victim was 19 years old, but it's believed that many, many more victims have yet to come forward. Mike Jeffrey and the other defendants face a minimum of 35 years in prison, which is a life sentence for the 80-year-old Mike Jeffries. However, he is free right now because he paid a $10 million bond.
These CEOs, man. How many more crooked CEOs in the world have to be exposed? You know, it's a long list. Whew. Be careful, man. Gotta keep our eyes sharp out here in these streets.
She must have been out of her head.
Not long after this woman vanished, all hell broke loose. Hi, my name is Ethan, and here's everything you need to know in under 1 minute. 35-year-old Crystal Rogers was living with her boyfriend Brooks Huck and her children. On July 3rd, 2015, Brooks woke up and noticed that Crystal wasn't in bed and her car wasn't in the driveway. 2 days had gone by and no word from Crystal was given, until they found her car parked alongside the Bluegrass Parkway with a flat tire, the keys in ignition, and purse and phone in the passenger seat. Almost immediately, Crystal's family suspected her boyfriend Brooks. What's interesting is 16 months later, Crystal's father, Tommy Ballard, was hunting where an unknown subject fired a shot, hitting and unaliving him. Police are still looking for Crystal and also who unalived her father, and they believe the two cases are connected.
What do you guys think, Seekers?
Weirdest kid toys ever, part 24. So next up we got some bubbles. And it's like a sword. You dip it in like the thing with all the bubble solution crap, and then blah blah blah, you blow your bubbles. But if you take a nice close look at the thing that holds the bubbles, it looks like a nice old dude.
This is why I would never understand fraternities or hazing or anything of that nature. This guy right here, his name was Danny, and he was 18 years old attending the University of Missouri, not knowing that this one particular fraternity hazing event would lead to his life being forever changed. Now, this happened in 2021, and he was forced to drink 1 liter of vodka by himself, and he was seen on CCTV footage being carried downstairs. Now, this had happened after he was being forced to go into a thing of broken glass, leaving him basically in crutches. But this particular evening, he was caught on CCTV footage being carried around onto a couch on CCTV footage, and then he was being dragged into a car, and I think he fell out the car at one point, and then he was taken to the hospital. At this point, he was already in cardiac arrest by the time he had got to the hospital. He was in a coma for a long time. He finally was able to get out of the coma. Unfortunately, he lost his ability to see, brain function, and this is him now, y'all. This is so sad. Please do not let fraternity, hazing, or any of that kind of stuff affect your life, because this is crazy to me. Like, this is not hazing, this is torture.
Creepy games from...
She was spitting facts, man. Like I said, some of those hazings, they're not even hazing. They're just shit seems like it's a torture scheme. Like, people trying to do that to fit and be cool, man. I'm cool off that. When it gets too extreme, y'all got that. I'm out. I'm my own person, man. I'm not going through all that crazy crap just so a bunch of people I know can accept me. If you can't accept me for who I am, why would I want to be friends with you?
From around the world, Part 1. South Korea's The Elevator Game, which will supposedly take you to a whole nother dimension. The only thing you need for this game is an elevator, a building with 10 floors, and to be alone. So get in the elevator on the first floor, then push the 4th floor. Once you get to the 4th floor, don't get out. Push the 2nd floor. Once you get to the 2nd floor, push the 6th floor. Once you get to the 6th floor, push the 2nd floor. Once you get to the 2nd floor, push the 10th floor. Once you get to the 10th floor, push the 5th floor. That's when a woman may enter. Don't look at her, don't talk to her. Then push the 1st floor. If you start going up to the 10th floor, then you know it worked. Once you get to the 10th floor and get out, the woman may ask you, where are you going? Don't answer, but you'll know you've made it there because you're the only living thing there. But the hardest part isn't getting there, it's getting back.
Imagine dropping your child at school.
I won't be playing that.
A day like any other. But instead of being called to pick her up, you're called to pick up her body. Here's what we know. On Wednesday, the 7th of August, after failing to return home after school, 16-year-old Devaney Null was reported missing. After a later police search of the Overberg High School premises, however, her body was discovered in a storage room. In the aftermath of the disturbing discovery, the school has been closed today, the 8th of August, and counseling services have been offered to both students as well as their parents. A murder case has also been opened, and the investigation has been transferred to the Provincial Serious and Violent Crimes Team. Anyone with information about the crime can contact Investigating Officer Leon, or alternatively the Crime Stop hotline. As always, I'll be sure to keep you updated.
As the renewed search for the missing Beaumont children reached its 4th day today, the brothers who said the prime suspect hired them to dig a grave-like hole at the site in 1966 have come to assist. So in 1966, Robin and David Harkin were paid by the prime suspect in the case, Harry Phipps, to dig a grave-like hole at the former Castlereagh factory that's southwest of Adelaide, not far from the beach where the Beaumont children disappeared. And this happened only days after the children went missing. The Harkin brothers were boys at the time, and they didn't really think anything of it until 2013, when a documentary featuring the missing Beaumont children was aired, and it discussed Harry Phipps as a potential suspect. Phipps didn't become a serious suspect until 2004, when he passed away and his son Hayden made allegations about him and about the day the Beaumont children disappeared. So when the brothers saw this documentary talking about the children and Harry Phipps, they recalled this hole that he paid them to dig just days after the children went missing. Over the years, there have been a few searches at this property, but to no avail. But on Saturday, an excavation of the property was organized by independent MP Frank Pancallo. This new dig is taking place before the government-owned land is sold to developers, and it is due to stop on March 1st. Pancallo said this new search is far more intensive than previous digs by police of the same site. Earlier this week, they discovered a hardened slab that was buried deep beneath the dirt that had never been found before. And then on day 4, the Harkin brothers arrived to assist. Pancallo said the information provided by the Harkin brothers has changed the direction of the dig, saying, quote, "The brothers were able to pinpoint the position they thought they had dug the hole. They provided a lot of useful information. They've given us a lot more clarity on where to dig. This dig is only set to continue through this weekend, so hopefully something is found and the Beaumont children can finally be found and their family and the community can finally have answers about what happened to them."
The couple
behind me are 38-year-old Crystal Turner and 24-year-old Caitlin Schultz. They were a married couple who absolutely loved camping and spending time in the outdoors, but the pair were last seen alive on the 13th of August 2021. They were last seen at a bar in Morb at 9:30 that night. Witnesses who had seen them at the bar claimed that nobody had followed them out that night. After no one had heard from the pair for a few days, Kaylin's father contacted a friend who lived in the area where they were camping, and the father had said down the phone to Kaylin's friend that Keilin and Crystal were a little bit concerned about a creeper dude that had been near their campsite. So the friend went to their campsite in the La Salle Mountains, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, and this was on August 18th, 2021, so a couple of days after they'd last been heard from. And when they did this, they actually stumbled across their remains. And the worst part is they were on the phone with Kaylin's father as they discovered them. And the friend then contacted the police. Both of them were found undressed from the waist down in a creek, and they had both been shot to death. And this case was pretty much cold, and it still kind of is. Now, this one is technically unsolved, and I'll explain why in a minute, but there's actually no way we can confirm who did it. And it wasn't until May 2022 when police said that they had a suspect in this case, and this suspect was called Adam. But however, Adam was reported to have left the state and then taken his own life. Adam had also confessed to another killing in that area as well, and provided police with details that were not known to the public. The motive for the murders still remains completely unknown, and it's still not clear if this Adam character did actually murder them, and I suppose there's going to be no way to prove it because he's dead. But I just think this one is absolutely heartbreaking, and the pair deserved so much better.
Be careful when you're out. You never know, man. Dangers lurk around each and every single corner. Witness that firsthand. You know, if you're expert level seekers, man, you can see through all the edits.
Y'all, the Watts house has to be haunted, because tell me why the new owners of the Watts house are getting a divorce, and allegedly the dad, the husband, put his hands, or was some type of DV situation, or whatever the case may be, towards the wife. This is crazy. So basically the Watts house was put on the market after Shanann, Bella, and Cece were unalived by Chris Watts. It took a while for the house to sell. It was on the market for a long time. I want to say it was on there for $700,000, right? They went ahead and closed on the house, and for what it seemed like, everything was going well. Well, eventually there was a report that there was a call from the wife. They also, mind you, have 2 daughters and 1 son. It's very similar to what Shanann and Chris, had. They were going to have a son, and they also had 2 daughters. Anyways, so there was a call of a domestic complaint, and the wife basically said that she felt like her husband was going to put his hands on her. I think he was, either maybe drunk or whatever the case may be. I'm not 100% sure, but there was some type of domestic dispute in the house. Now, he did get arrested, y'all. He did get arrested. I was able to find proof of his arrest. There is a record. Basically, you got to look into, I believe it was Frederick, Colorado. And yeah, it will come up. But anyways, he did get arrested, and they're selling the house. They're getting a divorce, selling the house, allegedly. Now the house is back on the market. I'm not 100% sure if it's sold to a new person yet or not, but it's back on the market again. Y'all, I feel like this house needs to be torn down and turned into a memorial at this point, because why is it every time they sell this house, it's getting back on the market?
This is a case that has continued to bother me. Sarah Kinslow was born on June 14th of 1986. She grew up with 3 siblings and 2 loving parents in Greenville, Texas. Growing up, she was very musically inclined. She even entered a women's composer competition, and she won first place. She was known to often do solos at her church, and she was just very talented when it came to music. Sarah was also a very happy child. It was well known that she loved the holidays, especially Christmas. Her parents said that she would wake up super early on Christmas morning and go wake up all of her siblings, and she couldn't contain her excitement to the point where she would grab her stockings and then go and jump in her parents' bed to open everything. But as Sarah started getting older, she started hitting a more rebellious streak. When she turned 14, she started staying out late, sneaking out. Like, she was just being kind of a rebellious teenager, and things seemed to get worse when she met 18-year-old Curtis Wayne Bell, and I don't have a picture of him. I'm sorry about that. Sarah's parents obviously did not approve of this relationship. They did not like Curtis, which is understandable because he was 18 and she was 14. Just the age difference that Sarah's parents didn't agree with. Curtis was also known to be a really not a great dude. He was very involved in drugs, and even Sarah's older brother, he was in jail for unknown reasons, and even he said that the inmates had told him that Curtis was not a good person and his younger sister should. But this did not stop Sarah. In fact, this would lead to a lot of arguments in the home, and even one night Sarah started packing up all of her stuff, and she told her parents that one day she would be gone. On May 1st of 2001, Sarah went to school early that morning. Her dad dropped her off around 7:20. They wanted to go early because Sarah had plans to meet with some of her friends. Sarah's dad left and then went about his day. It wasn't until later when Sarah didn't return home from school, and then the school eventually calling saying that Sarah had never been at school, that her parents got worried. They started questioning her friends and asking all of them where Sarah was. None of them knew where she had gone because they had plans that day to skip school and go to a local cemetery, but Sarah had never shown up, according to her friends. It was after this that Sarah's family decided to report her missing, and at first she was considered a runaway, and her parents agreed that she probably ran away. And it wasn't until all of the friends agreed to take a polygraph test, and all of them failed, that things started to get strange. Now, polygraph tests are not that reliable, but still it is worth noting. That's when police brought in dogs, and the dogs did track Sarah's scent for 2 blocks, but then it disappeared, so they believe that Sarah got into a vehicle. We'll get into more in part 2. Give me a couple minutes to get it up. It'll be down in the comments.
What is the craziest thing that someone's confessed to on their deathbed? Well, a deathbed confession made this year solved a 20-year-old cold case. And this is coming from the Heart Starts Pounding podcast episode that's all about cold cases that were solved this year. So this year in West Virginia, a man named Larry Webb was dying. And before he died, he called a nurse over and said he needed to get it off his chest that he killed a woman and her daughter back in 2000. It turns out that back then, a woman named Susan Carter and her 10-year-old daughter Alex were living with Larry while Susan was in a custody battle with Alex's father. And one day they just disappeared, but because they were together when they disappeared, police assumed that Susan just ran away with her daughter. But Larry confirmed that that's not what happened. The story he gave on his deathbed is that one day he came home to see that Susan was stealing money from him, and so he shot her. And then panicking, he wanted to get rid of all the witnesses, and that included Alex, her daughter. And to me, the craziest thing in all of this is that Larry had really bad dementia, so when he gave this confession, they weren't really convinced that it was true. But the day after he died, both of their remains were found in his backyard. If you want to hear more on that story and other cold cases that were solved this year, check out the Cold Cases That Were Solved This Year episode of the Heart Starts Pounding podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
It goes to show you, man, people in their last moments, that's when they want to get the truth off their chest, man. Something about their last moments, man. They just want to go, I guess, into wherever they're about to go, into with peace of mind, but the damage is done. Wonder how many other people, man, who are still holding in their secrets. You know what that is. All day, every day.
What is one true crime case that you just can't stop thinking about? I always wonder what really happened to 6-year-old Catherine Corzilius. On August 7th, 1996, Catherine, along with her mom Nancy and her brother Chris, were out running errands. Catherine's dad was Paul Corzilius, who at the time was the tour manager for John Bon Jovi. That day was Paul's birthday, so they were all out looking for a present for him. They all lived on Elder Circle, which is a small neighborhood near Austin, Texas. When they got back to Elder Circle, Catherine wanted to pick up the mail from the community mailbox and then walk home. The mailboxes were only about 1/8 of a mile from their home, and Catherine had done this a few times before, so her mom let her. Catherine would take the shorter route home, while her mom and brother would take the longer route around Elder Circle. This way, they would be getting home at almost the same time. But once Nancy and Chris got home, with still no sign of Catherine, Nancy sent Chris to go and look for her. But when Chris couldn't find her, Nancy started searching for her by car. Within minutes, they found her laying in the middle of the road on Elder Circle. She was unconscious, but still breathing. According to Nancy, she didn't want to make her daughter lay on the hot pavement, so she picked her up and took her to the hospital. Little Catherine suffered from a fractured skull and never regained consciousness, and sadly, she died later that day. Authorities initially thought that Catherine was a victim of a hit and run, but certain things didn't add up. Where Catherine's body was found was in an unusual spot. Her mom last saw her walking towards their house, but her body was found a little over a mile away from their home in the opposite direction that she was supposed to have gone. Catherine's body was actually found along the route that her mom and brother took to get home, and the autopsy only deepened the mystery. The autopsy showed that Catherine didn't die from a hit and run. Along with her head injury, she also had abrasions on her left shoulder, lower back, right hip, and her knees. The ME found that Catherine had either jumped, fallen, or was thrown from a moving vehicle. One theory investigators came up with was that Catherine maybe tried to hold on to the back of her mom's car on the drive home, but fell off. This would explain the location of where her body was found. But her family did not believe this, so they hired a PI. The PI noted that it was a really hot summer day, and at the time, Catherine's left thumb was broken and in a splint, so it would have been really difficult for her to hold on to anything. And it's likely her mom would have seen her in the rearview mirror. Catherine's family believes she was abducted and murdered. After her death, investigators brought in a canine unit that tracked her scent to a vacant lot 30 yards from the mailboxes, but it was lost after that. This sparked a theory that Catherine was approached by an attacker at the mailboxes, ran into the lot, was caught and thrown into a car, struck in the head, and then was thrown out of the vehicle where she was found. Nancy also stated that it appeared her daughter's body was laid out for her to find. Her hair was smoothed down, her clothes were straight, and her sandals were still on. Unfortunately, there's never been any answers in this case, and it's still labeled a suspicious death. John Bon Jovi wrote a song dedicated to Catherine called August 7, 415. And sadly, in March of 2020, Catherine's brother Chris, who grew up to be a police officer, was tragically killed in a car accident.
It's a mysterious case. It used to be solved.
Hello, true crime earners. It's time for another episode of Coldest Cases by State. Today, South Dakota. Brr. So, this is the kind of strange case of Arnold Archambault and Ruby Brugier. They were actually part of the Yankton Sioux tribe. They were a happy couple and they had just recently had a baby. And then a tragedy happened on December 11th, 1992. So, the two of them had joined Ruby's cousin, Tracy Dion, for a night of partying. Around 6 a.m. on December 12th, they would come home after the night of partying. But because they were still intoxicated, the babysitter, who was actually Tracy's father, said, "Can you please just come back later?" So they got back in the car. Arnold was driving the car. And just a few short minutes after they left the house, they would get involved in a car accident. The car had overturned. This is not the exact car, by the way. The witness would say that Arnold swerved because the road was icy, and then they flipped into this ditch. So this is when it gets kind of strange. Allegedly, Arnold is able to get out of the car and he fled. Ruby then escapes the car and she flees. Neither of them apparently help Tracy. When paramedics arrived to the accident, they were able to save Tracy. She was honest. She said, "We've been drinking. I have no idea where my friends went." Police would only speculate that because of DWI laws that maybe they fled because they were scared of being arrested. Their families, however, would say no, they wouldn't do that, especially not to their baby. They searched the woods, and they never found this couple. They literally just poofed into thin air. And they conducted these searches for months. They should have been somewhere in the area. This is a still image pulled from Unsolved Mysteries, where this case actually aired. The OG Unsolved Mysteries. So this isn't the real scene. But in March of 1993, about 3 months later, in the ditch just 75 feet away from where the car accident happened, was the decomposed body of Ruby Brugier. The ditch had water in it, so the next day they pumped out the water, and in that same area they found the decomposed body of Arnold Archambault. It was only like 15-20 feet away from where Ruby was. You know what's stranger? He wasn't as badly decomposed as Ruby was. They also found a tuft of Ruby's hair at the crime scene, which is very odd. The autopsy would show they died of exposure. A witness said they saw Ruby and Arnold at a New Year's Eve party 3 weeks after the accident. That witness took a polygraph and passed. Police say foul play wasn't involved. Were they murdered? How come they were in the same spot as the car accident, months later? This one is so weird, right?
Yeah.
was swallowed by a python at work. On October 23rd, an Indonesian man reported his wife Jara missing when she failed to return home after working a shift at a rubber plantation. After searching the plantation, her scarf, sandals, jacket, and working tools were found, but she could not be located. Not long after, a 20-foot python was spotted that looked extremely bloated. They killed and cut open the snake and found Jara's body inside. Her body was intact, meaning that she had been swallowed whole.
By a python swallowed whole?
This is why you should always actually listen to what children tell you. This 9-year-old boy literally lived on midnight snacks because every night he would come downstairs and eat a ton of junk food. Until one night he was in the kitchen and thought he heard something from around the corner, but everyone was asleep. So he peeked around the corner and that's when he saw a man guzzling milk straight from the carton. The terrified boy ran upstairs, got his parents, and they all checked out the kitchen, but it looked normal. They told him that his imagination was just playing tricks on him, but the boy knew what he saw. So days went by, but the boy always felt like he was being watched, until one night he looked up at his ceiling vent and saw 2 eyes staring back down at him. He ran to go tell his parents, but again, they told him it's just your imagination, stop bothering us. Then the boy smelled this really horrible stench coming from the ceiling, so he convinced his parents to cut into it and see what was up there. And there they found that same skinny man who was drinking the milk dead in the ceiling.
Listen to the kids, man. They're telling the truth.
Scariest urban legend from each state, part 3. Annabelle from Connecticut. The demonic doll you see in the Conjuring and Annabelle movies was actually based on a real-life Raggedy Ann doll that was supposedly inhabited by a spirit of a dead girl who was then trapped in a spirit case by Ed and Lorraine Warren. It's also stated if you look at the doll the wrong way or dare to touch the case, your future looks extremely dark.
The lies that Disney tells to avoid traumatizing children. Pocahontas. She was 10 years old. And he was 27.
They ain't put that in an animated movie.
She called him father. Sleeping Beauty. It is based on a story where a married king finds a sleeping princess. And the princess gave birth to a pair of twins while she was sleeping. The Little Mermaid. The prince married another. And the Little Mermaid turned into sea foam.
I don't know if that's cap or fact, man. We're gonna have to check that out. These videos we watch together, man, always check for yourself.
3 seconds. If you don't see it, you die.
Is that an elephant?
Alright, time's up, and if you didn't see the hyena, you are now a hypothetical hashtag. Let's talk about the lion-hyena beef, and how it has a living laugh track guts deep in an elephant. So it's actually not a beef more than a blowout, because lions do hyenas dirty. Being an animal nerd is realizing lions steal from hyenas more than hyenas do to lions. The reason you thought it was the opposite was because all those times researchers would watch a lion eat and hyenas trying to steal a piece, whole time the hyenas were trying to steal back what was stolen from them. Hyenas have a higher hunting success rate, because they're homicide on Duracell. They do not get tired, they will run you into a grave. Lions, especially males, are good, but they don't have the stamina, but they do have the bulk to solo bigger prey, but also take a hyena's lunch. Fun fact, it takes about 20 hyenas to humble a male lion. And they know it. They also know that hyenas are their biggest competition on the plains and will murk them on sight. Now hyenas will roll in clans of up to 80, so they'll get their get back when they have the numbers, but band for band versus a lion king, they take the L almost every time. Hyenas are smart and they've been known to hide inside expired elephants to avoid not just rival hyenas, but pirating lions too. Doing that means they can finesse more mealtime without getting hurt, murked, or put on a shirt. Moral of the story? Now you see why they pulled up in the elephant graveyard. Maybe. I don't know. The more you know.
This daycare owner shot her husband twice after she found this out. Shantiri Weems and her husband James owned this daycare called Kids Castle. On July 2022, a woman whose child was attending Kids Castle approached Shantiri and told her that her daughter was being molested by James. Shantiri lost it, and in that moment, she made her way to a hotel in Washington, D.C. where James was staying at and shot him in the neck and thigh. Shantiri admits that her intentions were to paralyze James because she was just so angry. Keep in mind, Shantiri loved kids and her job, and she wanted this daycare to be something where kids felt like they were safe. And she said after seeing the pain in this mother's face, she snapped. James had contact with 93 children and most of them rode on the daycare bus with him, which is where most of the abuse happened. And this story only gets more disturbing. And James was also a retired Baltimore police officer. But ultimately, Shantiri was sentenced to 4 years in prison, and the judge said that she should have never taken the law into her own hands. James, on the other hand, faces 30 counts of child sexual abuse and assault charges.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 18. A man from Queens once spent 5 months in jail completely unaware that his bail was just $2. Since spiders molt, when you see what you might think is a dead spider, it could just be that the spider left behind its exoskeleton and is now bigger than before. Almost everyone on Earth is walking around with a bunch of poop inside of them. Scientists accidentally killed the world's oldest living animal, which was a clam that lived to be 507 years old. Statistically speaking, at least one person who comments on this video will not be alive tomorrow. The real reason you shouldn't eat raw cookie dough isn't because of getting sick from eating raw eggs. It's because you shouldn't eat raw flour, which contains fecal matter from all the birds flying over the field and pooping on the wheat.
Today we're going to be talking about the urban legend of Hug and Molly from Abbeville, Alabama. Also, I'm starting a new series about urban legends by state, and we're starting with Alabama because it's the first one in alphabetical order. She's a ghostly presence that is 7 feet tall, and she wears like this black cloak, and she haunts the town at night, and she apparently grabs kids that are being bad, and she screams in their ear at the top of her lungs, which can be deafening. Some people think that she was a mother who lost her children. Some people think that she was a school teacher back when she was alive. I like the school teacher theory, honestly, because like I was a substitute for years and I would also do this in the afterlife. Also, I love that it's so southern that it's actually Hug and Molly. Like as a Texan, okay, I appreciate the southern drawl on that. It looks like she even has her own Pokemon card.
What?
But she's so entwined with the town of Abbeville that she's even on the sign for when you enter the town. This would be a great place to take the kiddos. This is from the Hug and Molly movie. Why does it kind of look like me at the movie theater when I'm pissed off that they run out of Twizzlers? But like 7 feet tall? Hello, mommy. She's an icon. She is the moment. We love her. How do you feel about Miss Molly?
I ain't going there, bro. I can scratch that off the list. Hug and Molly, we will not be going there.
What people saw in this picture is what led them to believe that ghosts are real. When you look at this picture, what do you see? It just looks like a picture of a man having a picnic, sitting on a bench with his child at the park. The guy in this picture's name is Christopher. His wife was the one holding the camera and taking this picture. They didn't think anything of it. He posted the picture on his Facebook page, and that's when people noticed something in the picture and had so many questions. Zoom in, take a look around. Can you see it? It looks like there's a woman in the top left corner of this picture. Christopher and his wife both confirmed that it was just the three of them at the park this day, and they didn't notice anything when she took the picture. This is where it takes an interesting spin, because just a year before the picture was taken, this woman went missing in the same area. She was later found deceased inside of the pond. Some people said that this figure in the top left corner has an eerily similar resemblance. What do you think about this?
This is the haunt.
Could that have been a ghost, man? I don't know. After hearing what happened in that area, bro, it definitely sound like some spirits definitely roaming around there. And I wouldn't be in that area. They caught that on camera 4K. Who knows?
Haunting story that inspired sinners. Robert Johnson was a young man living on a plantation in rural Mississippi with dreams of becoming a musician. It's said that he walked to a crossroads and made a deal with the devil to improve his guitar playing. Because anyone who heard Robert Johnson play, and you can find some of his audio on YouTube, they all said he was extremely talented. Legend says he sold his soul to Satan, and others will say the African god Papa Legba. When you make a deal to the devil, he always comes back to collect. Robert Johnson got to experience some success, but it was short-lived. Robert Johnson died for reasons unknown at the age of 27, making him an inaugural member of the 27 Club. Selling your soul to the devil could also be a phrase from Southern conservatives who say that you are leaving the church and instead choosing to play music in dance halls where there is drinking and other kinds of sinning going on. Some other more logical theories are that Robert Johnson had syphilis or that he was poisoned for flirting with another man's wife. A fellow blues player, Honeyboy Edwards, claims to be witness to this poisoning. Honeyboy said Robert was offered a bottle of whiskey and he knocked it out of his hand, saying that he should never drink something that he hasn't seen opened, which is good advice. Instead, Robert got mad at him and accepted a second drink and fell ill hours later. A lot of his songs reference crossroads and the devil, and Ryan Coogler said on the Mike Muse show that these mythical references helped inspire the idea for Sinners. If you've seen the movie, let me know your thoughts and follow for more.
I've heard they said Sinners is like a freaking great movie. They've been clamoring. They even put it back in IMAX and some more IMAX theaters. Any of the seekers actually checked it out? Sounds like a crazy story, man. But Ryan Coogler got, I guess, inspired by to put it in the movie. That's why I guess it's so good.
Little girl will forever share her birthday with the date her mother died.
This is who you ruined her life. She will never know her mommy.
23-year-old Yesenia Aguilar was 8 months pregnant when this woman who was under the influence ran her over. Yesenia and her husband were walking together on the sidewalk when Courtney Pandolfi came out of nowhere and hit Yesenia. What's crazy is that this was Courtney's 5th DUI since 2008. Fortunately, after an emergency C-section, the baby survived. But the mother didn't, and the father, James Alvarez, says that it's been difficult accepting the fact that his wife died on the same day that his daughter was born.
Scariest urban legends from every US state. This shows some of the most popular urban legends from every single state across the USA. And as you've probably guessed, in this series we're going through all of them, from the most normal ones to the really dark, disturbing ones. So let's kick off part 2. Oh, this is creepy. So the legend goes, a long time ago in New York, in a children's hospital. Children would be in this hospital, and at night obviously they'd basically just be left alone. The legend was about someone called Cropsey. Cropsey has a hook for a hand and lurks around at night in the children's hospital. He stalked and unalived these people who he found walking in the corridors at night. Apparently everybody who goes to camp in upstate New York knows about this legend, so let me know if that's true. This is where things get even more disturbing. A documentary was posted which basically confirmed this was real. Convicted killer and kidnapper Andrew Rand. That's him there in the middle, and it was real. A follow button, it's going to get crazy, and let me know which state you're from.
It's a crazy story, man, that happened in New York. What the hell? Kids' hospitals? I don't know why they mad.
Let's talk about some real creepy American urban legends. And today we'll be talking about the Dead Children's Playground. Now, the Dead Children's Playground is one of Huntsville, Alabama's most haunted locations. And it is located within Maple Hill Cemetery. And it might look like a typical ordinary playground, but the kids that play on this playground is not alive. Now, accounts differ on why locals call this playground the Dead Children's Playground, because it was originally called the Maple Hill Park. But some say the children that passed away in the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic was buried in the Maple Hill Cemetery that's like right next door to this park, come back at night to play on this playground. And others think that the reason of the paranormal activity at this playground was from a series of child abductions that happened in Huntsville in around like the 1960s. And there was like several children bodies that was recovered near this playground. But there has been lots of people over the years that have encountered seeing a lot of paranormal activity going on. Like they could literally see the swings moving without any type of wind or drift to be able to push these swings. Lots of people have actually spotted children that like would disappear off, or different type of orbs. There's even some kind of pictures online that people have claimed to have taken of these children or the different orbs around this playground. But I mean, it's not really weird that this playground would be haunted because it's literally connected to a very popular cemetery. And like I said before, with this pandemic, this was like a worldwide pandemic, and lots of children and adults passed away during this pandemic. And it unalived at least the estimate of 50 million people worldwide during the time.
And the hospitals were like filled, and the doctors was working long shifts to, help the patients out. And a lot of patients basically had to be treated at home in quarantine. And it got to the point where bodies was literally having to be stacked on wagons and hauled to morgues by horses. And according to the Alabama Department of Public Health, it hit Alabama really hard. But although there's not an actual account of the number of children that passed away during this pandemic, but people believe that it was at least hundreds that was buried in the Maple Hill Cemetery. And the original playground equipment was removed in 2007 to make room for the expanding cemetery. But a lot of the locals and citizens was outraged and demanded that the original, equipment be returned. And the city responded with the new playground that stands there today. So let me know if y'all ever heard of this urban legend, or if y'all live in the Huntsville, Alabama area and y'all have seen some stuff, because I believe it. The playground is right beside the cemetery, so that's not really weird that a lot of paranormal activity happens here. But let me know what y'all think in the comments.
Alabama is a haunting place, bro.
Well, it's Halloween again, which means once a year I have an excuse to talk about this, so here you go. The most toxic relationship in all of nature. Or at least top 2 of certain entanglements count. That is an anglerfish, although you might recognize him as a demon guppy that nearly put Nemo in a foster home. It's also canon that this was a female, because the female fish are about 40 times bigger than the males they dwarf. That's like being 5'2" with some attitude, but your man's only 1.5 inches. So the bite-sized male tracks her down in the dark through pheromones and bites her. You already know how this goes. While still attached to her, the male starts to degenerate and his body begins to fuse with hers on some Deviant Steven Universe timing. I'm talking about even his blood vessels fuse into hers. This parasitic +1 even starts to lose his internal organs, because again, he's not like he's gonna need them. And that's it. That's the rest of his life, just a war on the female whose only purpose is fertilizing eggs. Basically becomes a living STD, and like Stid, sometimes you don't just get one. Some females can end up with several lumps on their bodies that used to be males. It's a nasty codependent relationship, because the male's a parasite that will pretty much die if he doesn't find a female to leech off of. And the female just uses him as a nut factory with no almonds. Whole time she can have a whole herd of herpes, or I guess himpies, stuck to her. Now you see why she wanted Nemo in the system. I don't even blame her. That's a horrendous script to have written for you.
These are scary urban legends in each state, part 4. Up first is La Mala Hora. La Mala Hora is located in New Mexico and is a very scary and dangerous demonic spirit. She walks around lonely roads after midnight and terrorizes those who travel alone. People who have seen her say she appears as a large black lump, constantly moving and changing shape. But the scariest part about La Mala Hora is that anyone who lays eyes on her will be driven completely insane. She tries to hypnotize and paralyze anyone who encounters her. Some people even believe the devil himself is scared of La Mala Hora. People who live in New Mexico also say that she really never appears in human form, but if she does, it means somebody you know or yourself is going to die soon. So if you live in New Mexico, I feel bad for you.
La Mala Hora. When I go to New Mexico, we gotta be
Creepy
aware.
True Stories Part 2. Dylan Koshman moved in with his 2 cousins, Colin and Nick. Dylan had met a new girlfriend named Erin. They fell for each other and she was always at the house, so the cousins really got mad and started to demand more rent from Dylan. One night, Dylan and the cousins got really drunk and a big fight broke out. They told Dylan to move out that night and they said he left and never came back. A few days later, Dylan's mom asked them to file a missing person report, but they never did. Instead, the girlfriend did. No traces of Dylan have been found since, and nobody knows what happened. The aunt says she found bloody tissues in their house, and the cousins say that Dylan left at 2 a.m., but the neighbors complained at 4 a.m. to the cops about loud noises. Lesson of the day, your girl will ride for you. What do you guys think happened? Did the cousins do something?
I don't know.
Scariest conspiracy theories in the world that will seriously change your life. So as we know, this photo right here shows all of the different conspiracy theories in the world, going from the least scary to, well, the scariest of the scary. So today let's kick off part 6 where stuff gets even wilder. So if you're easily scared or easily confused, keep on scrolling, do not watch this series. If you're here for the long run though, let's go. So today we've got dream theory, often referred to as alternate perception. Now this is just messed up and really confusing. So stick with me. Whereas you know when you have a lucid dream where it's really believable and you feel everything, you can literally control what happens in your dreams. It may be like real life. You know, you may be doing things you do in your everyday life, whatever. And sometimes you wake up and think, was that a dream? That's really weird. The theory is that we're actually switched. Now, stay with me. Basically, the theory is that what we're in right now, what I'm talking to you, you're watching TikTok, whatever, this is actually the dream world. So we're all dreaming. When we go to sleep and dream, that's actually the real world. See what I mean? Done a little switcheroo there. See what I mean? It's messed up and confusing. But if you think about it, we can control some of our dreams. So it is possible that that's another consciousness and another life. Hit that follow button so you never miss a part.
That dream theory, bro, got to me, man. How many of you been in a dream yet? We've been able to control it. I think that only happened to me a couple of times. That's freaking mind-blowing to say that. I guess the moment we're in right now is the dream world, but when we actually go to sleep and dream, that's a real life, a different set of consciousness. It's mind-boggling, man, but it's interesting though. We gotta dive deep into that one. These are some important questions, man, or some interesting ones.
This will make you always keep your hands under the covers. A young girl is home alone because her parents are out of town, with only her dog for company. She turns on the TV to learn that a killer is on the loose in her neighborhood. She runs to check the windows and locks all the doors, but she forgets about the basement window. She takes the dog with her to go to sleep and lets him sleep under the bed. But she awakes hours later to a dripping sound. She's too scared to move, so she reaches down to see if her dog is still there, and is granted with a reassuring lick. She then goes to the bathroom to make sure there isn't a leak. But when she walks in, she finds her dog dead, hanging from the shower head with blood slowly dripping onto the tiles. On the bathroom mirror, written in the dog's blood, are the words, "People can lick too."
Mythical creatures caught on camera. The bloop.
About to see the bloop? I thought that was a megalodon. Clear so far. We see something swimming in the distance.
Did y'all know that Miss Mary Mac, the nursery rhyme, is not so cute and sweet? Now let's talk about the scary meaning behind Miss Mary Mac. Now, like I mentioned before, a lot of these nursery rhymes, kid-friendly books and songs and movies was not kid-friendly and often originated from something so dark and creepy. Now, legend has it, Miss Mary Mac was born back in the day, and she was born with lots of deformities. Back then, people literally looked at you as if you were some type of alien if you had any type of deformities. They weren't educated on, being autistic or, having Down syndrome or different, things that we see on a day-to-day basis. So they said that her family was ashamed of her, and she grew up in the church. Like the church basically, helped her out. And the church also was in charge over the graveyards and keeping up with the graves. So they said she was always out there and she was really good at it. And she was insanely strong to the point where she had like superhuman strength, like literally could just do all this stuff that would take several men hours and hours and even sometimes days to do. She could do in like 30 minutes all by herself. And it was said that the children in the area would often pick on her and taunt her and make these different songs where they made the Miss Mary Mac, 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 all dressed in black, 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 the song that we used to sing. And allegedly after the third time they sung that song, that's when Mary would come out and tear them up one by one. Now some even say that this song come from a U.S. warship called the USS Mary Mac or something like that. And it was said that the ship was actually black and covered with silver buttons, which is what the song states about the silver buttons on the back. But that still was a ship that was used to fight in the Civil War. So either or, if it was based off Mary the Gravekeeper or this U.S. warship, why is this a children's song? And another thing is, when did we learn this? Because I remember just, doing Ring Around the Rosie and Miss Mary Mac, but who taught us that? I don't ever remember like my parents or my family members like singing that to us. So how did we know about this song? But yeah, a lot of these stories have a lot of twisted lore and just weird things. And I'm like, who made this into a kid nursery rhyme? But let me know what y'all think in the comments. And I'm also going to tag another creator that goes way in depth about the legend of Miss Mary Mac, the Gravekeeper. Let me know what y'all think in the comments.
That's just some important questions, man. Where do we pick those songs up at, man? At school? When we hear it around us?
Top 3 creepy last words people said right before dying. A nurse said that one night she was floated to oncology at the hospital she used to work at. She was given a patient who was passing away and had been unconscious for several days. At one point during the night, the nurse went into the room and the patient was on top of the bed. She looked at the nurse and said, "Don't let them take me." The nurse was freaked out and she asked her who was going to take her. And the patient said, "That black thing up there," and pointed up in the air. The patient died within minutes. A guy was rushed into a level 1 trauma facility from a motorcycle versus truck collision. The guy's able to talk at the beginning. He was drunk and cussing out the doctors and nurses trying to help him. They end up intubating him to preserve the airway and he's going downhill fast. He codes, but they manage to bring him back. Suddenly, the guy comes completely to, rips out his tube, grabs one of the med student's hands and lets out a breathy-like scream. "Don't let me die. I'm going to hell. Please don't let me die," he said. This freaks out everyone. The guy said he woke up in hell on fire and keeps begging someone to check his feet for burns. Nobody could believe that he pulled out his tube and was talking. Despite everything they did, the guy still died. The doctors and nurses were freaked out about it for weeks. Emma said that when she worked in a nursing home, they had a resident that was unpleasant, to say the least. One day, Emma was on bell duty. It was her responsibility to answer all the bells for 2 hours. And the man rang his bell and told her that there was a black dog under his bed. Emma looked under the bed, but there was nothing there. She thought that he could have possibly seen a dog because it was a hot day and the front door to the home was open. She told him that the dog must have gone out the door before she arrived. He rang the bell again a short time later, insisting that he could see a dog under the bed. Again, Emma couldn't see anything. This carried on. He became quite hysterical on one occasion, shouting that the black dog under his bed was trying to bite him and that it had red eyes. He looked terrified, and Emma couldn't calm him down for ages until the dog disappeared. She handed over what happened to the nurse in charge and went home as it was the end of her shift. The next day, she was on afternoon shift and she found out that the man had died not long after she had gone home. It really freaked her out. Emma said that he was a very unpleasant man and she often wondered if the dog was there to take him away to you-know-where.
The dog had red eyes. I don't know what the heck you were saying there, man. Terrifying. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I really appreciate the support. Make sure you guys leave a thumbs up in this video. Comment down below. Don't forget to hit that post notification bell so you'll always get notified when I upload my next videos. You guys are going to catch me in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.